Well, good morning, everyone. It's good to have you here and good to be the church today on Palm Sunday. And by the way, I want to thank Kaylee LeMay. I do that right, Kaylee? And Carter Nath. I heard these two on Facebook. I think you posted something on Facebook. Of course, I've worked with Carter many times, and this is my first experience with Kaylee. Thank you so much. If you all were here, I know you'd be clapping, but thank you so much for all you do. And thanks for agreeing to be a part of our Palm Sunday worship. Yeah. So I also wanted to mention to you the schedule for this next week because it's a little different than most schedules. We have Thursday in the evening at 7 o'clock. That is our Maundy, Thursday worship. There will be no Wednesday worship. So if you see that posted any place that we have Wednesday at 7 o'clock, that is not correct. It's Holy Week. We have a slightly different schedule. We'll try to get all of those things corrected, but there are no promises. So just remember, Thursday at 7 o'clock, we will have Maundy, Thursday here on our live stream, just like you always watch it. And then Easter Sunday, as Shelley mentioned, we have two services. We have this service at 9 o'clock, live stream, because we know that there are people literally all around the country. It's not just Algona, but all around the country who worship with us, and we want to make sure that we continue that on Easter Sunday. So that's at 9 o'clock, and then after our worship service, we're pumping down to Kmart parking lot, and you folks are going to come in your cars, those of you who live in the area, get in the parking lot, and we will be leading worship, and it will be broadcast over the local radio station. Is it KLGA? Is that what it is? KLGA. And then listen to the radio, keep your windows rolled up, honk at your friends, wink at your friends, but let's do this as safely as we can. There is one potential kink in that plan, and that would be if Governor Reynolds would decide that we have a stay-at-home order or a shelter-at-home order, in which case then we will have to cancel that service, but we will be here for sure at 9 o'clock in one way, shape, or form on Easter morning. So I wanted to let you know that as well. So we have been in the middle of this sermon series. It's Signs of the New Creation. We've been working through the book of signs in John's Gospel. And today we have the sixth of the signs. This is the raising of Lazarus. And to get at that, I have a little children's ditty that I want to share with you. And these guys are going to help me, so if you want to turn on their mics. So I'm going to have you repeat after me. I don't have this part memorized, so I got to look at it. So repeat after me. No, repeat after me.
Repeat after me.
Okay, there we go. Going on a bear hunt. But I'm not afraid. I got a real good friend. By my side. Oh, look. What do I see? A deep, dark cave. Oh, that's good, guys. Okay. Can't go over it. Can't go under it. Can't go around it. Just got to go in it. Okay. Hold that thought. Bet you're wondering where this is going, right? It was an unseasonably warm afternoon in December. So much so that it was one of those afternoons that you just could not squander. So the boys, they were at church that morning, and they got together afterwards, and they decided, well, we're going to all get our chores done on the farms quickly, and we're going to get together, and we're going to play a little bit of football. And that's what they did. 9 boys, all of them good friends. They just loved to be together, and the afternoon was as perfect as this warm December weather in the afternoon. And they were playing football, and they had not a care in the world. It was December 7th, 1941. And Jill's grandfather came out the back door of the farmhouse and down the lane to where the boys were playing football to tell them that the Japanese had sent airplanes and bombed a place called Pearl Harbor. None of the boys had ever even heard of Pearl Harbor before. But as my father-in-law would tell the story years later, it was one of those moments in life where you could feel the weight of the world upon your shoulders. And there they stood underneath that warm December sun, looking at each other. And they knew, without a shadow of a doubt, they knew that they couldn't go over it, they couldn't go under it, they couldn't go around it. The world as they knew it had just changed, and there was only one way to go: into it. 9 teenage boys. 7 of them were sent off to fight. 1 came home wounded. 4, including my wife's uncle, didn't come home at all. Can we sing?
When peace like a river attendeth my way, when sorrows like sea billows roll, whatever my lot thou hast taught me to say, it is well with my soul. It is well with my soul. It is well with my soul.
Thanks so much. Story that Shelley just read. Jesus wept. You know, when I first read that story a long time ago, I assumed that Jesus was weeping because he had just lost his good friend Lazarus. Lazarus had died. But I've had a chance to read it a few more times, and I don't think that's the case anymore. Because you see, with Jesus, especially in John's gospel with Jesus, there's always more than meets the eye. And I believe that's certainly the case here. I mean, overwhelming grief is not a great explanation for why Jesus is weeping, at least not here. Here's why. Take a look at the rest of the story and all the times before this that Jesus doesn't weep. Jesus does not weep when he learns that his friend Lazarus is sick. And when Lazarus is dead and Jesus knows it, Jesus doesn't cry. And then he comes to the house and he meets Mary and Martha, Lazarus' 2 sisters, who are also friends of Jesus. He sheds no tears. And he doesn't weep when he sees their grief, and he doesn't cry when he visits the tomb. These are all times when friends would naturally weep with friends. But not here. Not with Jesus. No. Jesus weeps at an invitation made by the sisters. Listen again to the story, exactly as it's written. Jesus said to them, "Where have they laid him?" They said, "Come and see." Jesus wept. Come and see. It's an invitation. And you know, it's all over John's gospel, especially before this story. But every time it's mentioned, it's either mentioned by Jesus or about Jesus, and it's directed towards someone else. So if you take a look at, for instance, at the first chapter of John, there are 2 men. One's name is Philip, and the other is just identified as a guy. And they want to know where Jesus is staying. And so Jesus says to them, come and see. And they come and they see. And in John's gospel, they become Jesus' very first followers. Not too long after that, there's a guy by the name of Nathanael who approaches these two brand new followers, Philip and this other guy. And Nathanael says to them, he says, can anything good come out of Nazareth? And Philip and the other guy say to Nathanael, come and see. And Nathanael comes and he sees, and he too becomes a follower of Jesus. A few chapters later, there's this Samaritan woman, and she's at the well, and she is so moved by her conversation with Jesus that she drops her water jar right there at the well, runs back home, gathers up her neighbors, and says, you guessed it, come and see. I just met a man who told me everything there is to know about me, things I've not even told you. See, come and see, in John's gospel, it's the way John works. It is used by or about Jesus as an invitation to others to either know him or meet him or follow him. And that's where it happens in every instance in John's gospel except here. Here, these same words are turned on the master. The sisters say to Jesus, come and see. And at that moment, Jesus knows that this is way bigger than his personal loss. And it's way bigger than the grief of a single family. And it's even way bigger than the sign that he's about to perform, the raising of this one man. Come and see, they say. And Jesus realizes that the weight is upon him, that all that ever was wrong in the world, and all that ever is wrong in the world, and everything that ever will be wrong in the world has been placed squarely upon his shoulders. And he knows it. He knows that everything has changed. Everything has changed. And now he's heading in a new direction. It's the story that we're going to be telling each other this next week during Holy Week. So I'd like you to watch a video that I have for you, and just know that this video starts where the story of Lazarus ends up. When Lazarus is done here, he heads down the road of Holy Week. And this is where he goes. Shelley?
And we've reached the end of Jesus' long road trip to Jerusalem. He's arrived.
So he rides a donkey down the Mount of Olives towards the city, and all these crowds are forming, and people are singing, "Praise the King who comes in the name of the Lord." They're laying down their cloaks in front of him.
Why all this royal treatment?
Okay, so Israel's ancient prophets promised that one day God himself would arrive and rescue his people and rule the world. Other times the prophet spoke about a coming king who would ride into Jerusalem to bring justice and peace.
So Jesus is activating all these hopes that he's that king, and everyone's ecstatic.
Well, not everybody. The religious leaders, they think Jesus is a threat to their power, and so they're not happy. But even more striking, Jesus himself is distraught. He's actually weeping as he rides.
Yeah, why?
Well, Jesus can see what is coming. He knows that he won't be accepted as Israel's king, and he knows that Israel will keep going down a destructive path, neglecting the poor, stirring up rebellion against their Roman oppressors, and he knows that it will lead to death. It breaks his heart.
And it riles him up. The first thing he does in Jerusalem is march into the temple courts, and he drives out the money changers, disrupting the entire sacrificial system.
Yeah, he's staging a prophetic protest, and he stands in the center of the courtyard, shouting out words from Israel's ancient prophets. This is supposed to be a place of worship, but you've made it a den of rebels.
A den of rebels?
Yeah, he's quoting from the prophet Jeremiah, who stood in this same spot, the center of Israel's religious and political power. And he offered the same critique of Israel's leaders, that they're rebellious and corrupt.
And they get the message and start to plan to have him killed.
Which is no surprise to Jesus. In fact, he planned that all of this would happen during Passover.
This is the Holy Week when Jewish people celebrate their ancient story of how God liberated them from slavery and invited them into a covenant relationship.
And so Jesus uses the symbols of Passover to reveal the meaning of his coming death. The broken bread was his broken body, and the wine was his blood that would establish a new covenant relationship between God and Israel. Jesus was going to die for his people and open up a new way forward.
After the meal, Jesus takes his disciples to a garden to pray.
And he struggles with the very human desire to save his life instead of sacrificing it, but he overcomes this temptation.
And it's here where the religious leaders, with the temple guards, find him and arrest him.
Now, Jerusalem was being ruled by the Roman Empire, and so the temple leaders couldn't execute Jesus without permission from their Roman governor, a man named Pontius Pilate. And so they make up this charge that Jesus is a rebel king stirring up revolution against the Roman emperor.
Pilate asks Jesus, "Are you the king of the Jews?"
And Jesus answers, "You say so."
So Pilate can see that Jesus is an innocent man and he doesn't deserve death.
But the leaders keep insisting that he is dangerous, so they negotiate a compromise. Pilate will release an actual rebel against Rome, a man named Barabbas, instead of Jesus. And so the innocent is handed over in the place of the guilty.
Jesus is taken away with two other accused criminals and nailed to a Roman execution device. And people are mocking him. Hey, if you're the Messianic king, save yourself and us.
But Jesus loved his enemies to the very end, offering hope to one of the criminals dying beside him. And he even prayed for his executors. "Father, forgive them. They don't know what they're doing."
And then the sky darkened as an innocent man died the death of a rebel.
And then Jesus cried out with ancient words from Israel's Psalms, "Father, into your hands I commit my spirit." And then Jesus died, innocent and alone.
So, when Jesus leaves Lazarus' tomb after this last sign, this is where he's going. And that's why Jesus wept. So it is written in an ancient book written long ago. But it could be written almost anywhere, and in fact is. It could be spray painted on the wall of a back alley in Wuhan or New York or Rome. Jesus wept. It could be cross-stitched on every pillow in every hospice room, in every hospice house around the world. Jesus wept. It could be scrawled on a whiteboard at the foot of a bed in an ICU room right beneath the patient's name. Jesus wept. It could be scratched out on posters and hung from light posts in New Orleans or LA. Or it could be written in kid print with crayon on tagboard and taped to the front door of a now empty schoolhouse. Jesus wept. Lazarus' two sisters went out the back door of the farmhouse and down the lane to meet Jesus. "Lord, come and see." And for Jesus, it was one of those moments in life where he knew the weight of the world was upon his shoulders. And he knew that he can't go over it, he can't go under it, he can't go around it. If Lazarus or you or I or any of the rest of this broken creation is going to come out of death's dark cave, then Jesus is going to have to go in. He's going to have to ride into Jerusalem as a conquering hero and be carried out of Jerusalem as a corpse. That's the only way this is going to work. Let's sing.
Though Satan should buffet, though trials should come, let this blessed assurance control, that Christ hath regarded my helpless estate, and hath shed his own blood for my soul. It is well with my soul. It is well. It is well with my soul.
My goodness, thank you again so much. So most days I would probably end a sermon by asking you to follow Jesus. I'm not going to do that. Instead, what I'd like to do is I would like you to invite Jesus to follow you. Lord, come and see, tell him. Come and see where I live. Come and see my life as it is. Has this facade of normalcy, looks perfect and real. Come and see, Lord, underneath. Come and see all the friends that I have that cut me to the bone and think nothing of it. Come and see the trials and the hurt and the heartache. Come and see, especially in this time, in this place, come and see my anxiety and my fear and my loneliness because I sit in my house all by myself. Come and see, Lord. Come and see. And I will tell you, Lord, that when you do come and see, you will weep. Because I am going to show you things larger than even my hurts of my little world. And I will invite you in, Lord. And I will take my broken heart and lay my trust upon you. That you will enter in to these deep, dark tombs. And that you will take matters into your hands. And that you will, out of love, sacrifice yourself for me. So that I know that everything in this world that is set against me will be dipped in the blood of the Lamb and made clean by your pure sacrifice. Come and see, Lord, please.